You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. For grounding your ass from all the New Age sass. I'm your host, Jeff Hinshaw. Season 5 of Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. Hey cousins, welcome back to another week of the show. We are right here in the heart of Aquarius season. If you're listening to this episode live, February 6th, 2019, we're at the 17th degree of Aquarius. There's 30 degrees to every sign, so we're right moving past that halfway point. And so since we're right in the heart of it, we have an exciting and jam-packed episode for you this week. We're going to be talking about Aquarius's ruling planets, which Aquarius is a really fascinating sign when it comes to planetary rulership because it is co-ruled by two planets. So we got Saturn, which is the planet of authority and commitment. And then we have Uranus, which is the planet of revolution and change. So it's quite a juxtaposition that Aquarius energy is inviting us into, particularly during Aquarius season. And particularly if you are an Aquarius yourself, you find yourself balancing these two, what might seem like opposing planets, but when we can bring them into alignment, are really going to awaken us to the soul-centered attributes of Aquarius. So we're going to get into all of that, Saturn and Uranus. We'll also be honoring the life of the legendary performance artist Yoko Ono, and then also the syndicated radio show host Delilah Rene, who are both very different Aquarians, but also very incredible examples of the Aquarian spirit. So we're going to look at both of their lives and then their birth charts to see how Uranus and Saturn are activating in their chart. And then we also have an incredible high vibe Aquarius on the show today too, Aaron Smith of Vardo Tarot, who with a flash of inspiration conceptualized a tarot sanctuary on wheels, which is a tarot van that travels around to different parts in Los Angeles, California. And Aaron is a truly embodied Aquarian. So each astrological sign has a corresponding phrase, and the phrase for Aquarius is, I know. And in the high vibe form of that, the phrase I know is Aquarius' ability to connect with universal truths. This is our cosmic air sign, right? And then brings it down to Earth, to people. And so Erin, who's on the show today, is really grounded in her ability to channel cosmic truth. You can really feel the I know in her words. And in our conversation, we talk about the star card in the tarot and its connection to Aquarius. We also talk about the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords. We talk about the Queen of Zodiac, of course. And she also shares that Aquarius is most likely to go to Libra for advice. So to find out why, tune in to the end of the show for that conversation. So yeah, we're doing Saturn and Uranus, Yoko Ono, Delilah Rene, and then an incredible conversation with Aaron Smith of Vardo Tarot. But before we get into all that, let's bring our awareness to our bodies and to our breaths. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Each week on Cosmic Cousins, you can always count on having some time to bring your awareness to your body and to your breath. Such an integral part of our astrology practice. Last week, we connected to the nervous system, which is the part of the body that Aquarius is connected to. But there's also a few other body parts as well. So another thing that's associated with Aquarius is the joints. And the main joint is the ankle, the Achilles tendon, this region of the body. But you can also bring your awareness to any joints. So this could be the elbows, the wrist, even the parts of the fingers, you can even bring your fingers out in front of you, or your hand out in front of you, and you can bend the fingers and just take a moment to notice all of these little joints and these hinges of the body. Aquarius is connected to the place where bones meet. So Capricorn, right, is connected to the bones. It's a sign that comes before. And then Aquarius is also that space in between bones. So see if you can locate with your breath, breathing into the joints in the body. It's said that if you are a sun sign, moon are rising, it can also affect you. That the part of the body that is associated with that sign, you could end up having some sort of physical manifestation. So Aquarius, right, nervous system is connected to nervous system disorders, but it's also connected to things like tendinitis, joint pain. And so you can think of as someone, if they were fully immersed in Aquarian energy, they're on their computer all day because Aquarius is technology, their nervous system might be shot. If they're also putting a lot of pressure on themselves to carry the weight of humanity, this is also Aquarius, you could start to feel the joints tighten. And you can even think if you took your hands and then curled the fingers, notice what that feels like. And so that feels like a little bit straining, or like there's some sort of stress or pressure that you're putting on yourself. So for today in this meditation, can you allow the entire body to relax? And as you breathe, see if you can breathe space into the joints. And so you can allow the fingers to relax. And what you might find is that your hand begins to expand as you breathe space into the joints. And so breathe into the elbows. You can breathe into the knees, but again, you're not breathing into the bones. You're breathing into creating more loving space here. And then, of course, we'll bring it down to the ankles. This is the actual bone that Aquarius is connected to, is the ankle bone. And it's said for an Aquarius to decorate this part of their body, it will allow their Aquarian spirit to come out. So you can imagine having bells around your ankles. And that goes for any of the signs. Whatever body part is connected to your sign, can you find a way to enhance this part of your body, right? So Leo is the heart. Maybe you wear a necklace to symbolize that. Gemini is the hands. So maybe if you're a Gemini, you'll wear rings on your fingers or paint your fingernails. This is an invitation for you, but also for all of us during Aquarius season, is to bring some sort of loving awareness to our ankles. And so you can thank the ankles for all that they do. The ankles are this really precious part of the body because they hold the weight of the entire body. If you've ever sprained an ankle, you know that it's going to completely change the way that you interact with the world. So thanking the ankles for all that they do to support you throughout the day. This is getting us into the humanitarian feels of Aquarius. And a little bit of the unsung hero too. We don't often think of our ankles as really being an integral part to the entirety of our system. And as you breathe into the ankles and connect to the joints and the space that it's creating, we can bring our awareness to our hearts. What are we feeling this time of year? Aquarius season, right? On the northern hemisphere, we're right in the middle of winter. So this is a cold time of year. It's a time of year where we're coming off of holiday season. We're coming off of the New Year's resolutions. And so it's a time of year that's associated with loneliness. And this is also something that is connected to Aquarians, is this need and longing to be with groups, friends, humanity, but also maybe feeling a little like an outsider or like you're alone. So Aquarius time of year, it's gifting us an opportunity to breathe into not our loneliness, but our aloneness. What does it mean to be an individual? But also, what does it mean to be an individual that is connected to others? And whereas Capricorn season was connecting us more to family tradition, Aquarius season is connecting us to our friends. So bring your awareness to any friends that you have in your life. It can be groups of people. It can be one-on-one friendships. Libra, right, as our other air sign, is connected to one-on-one friendships, but this is more in a collaborative or a partnership kind of way. So you can think about your best friend. You can send love to them. Send love to any communities that you're involved in. And also hold space for any heartache that you might have in regards to friendship. Is there a friend that you've had a falling out with? Is there a community that no longer supports your needs? And because of this, do you feel alone and sad and not supported? So be present with any of these feelings and breathe into all of them. This is clearing up space for you to tend to the soil of your heart. And as you breathe into the heart and clear up space here, you can plant new seeds of intention for aligned community, for supportive friendship. You can breathe in hope for humanity. And sprinkle in some forgiveness, some self-love. And as you do that, we can also celebrate the friendships that you have that are thriving. Communities in your life that are present and blooming. And even though we might feel alone, we know that we are deeply connected to everyone, right? We talked about Aquarius being like the starry night sky, and so we can think of ourselves as a star, and all of the other people here on this plane and beyond are also stars. And it's through all of us coming together that we create this beautiful cosmic landscape. And so it's through collective intention that we lift one another up. So even just by being here right now and carving out this time in your life, know that there's other cosmic cousins tuning in and listening as well. And so this time you could even send out a wish for humanity. And together, through our collective intention, we can create a future that is more aligned with our ever-evolving consciousness. And so breathing into all of that. If you'd like, you could listen to the sound of my voice, or you could chant with me the sound of Om to close out this meditation. Deep inhale. Aquarius, blessings to you all. Thank you always for being here. I'm really excited to continue to explore this Aquarian energy with you. So first off, we're going to talk about the ruling planets, the co-rulership for Aquarius, which is Uranus and Saturn. And so to start off, I want to talk about how all the air signs have this balancing act going on. So Gemini, right, is the twins. And so Gemini is bringing some sort of reconciliation between different parts of themselves, between light and dark. They're exuding lightness within darkness. Okay? There's an airiness to a heaviness with this energy. And because of that, they have this ability to communicate with the world in a way that is very personal and real. Gemini is our personal air sign. And then Libra is also bringing a balance to polarities. We know the scales, right? And the ruling planet for Libra is Venus. But we can also look to Mars in a Libra's chart as well to see how their masculine and feminine energies are being balanced. And this is our interpersonal air sign. And then we expand out into the cosmic energy or the collective energy in air with Aquarius. And Aquarius is bringing a balance between the planets Uranus and Saturn. Saturn was the original ruling planet for Aquarius, as well as with Capricorn, right? But when the planet Uranus was discovered, and I'm going to pull it up now and see if I can find the exact date. I don't have the exact date here, but I believe it was in the 1700s at some point. Hold on, let me pause and I'll look that up. Okay, so I got it right here. So Uranus was discovered March 13th, 1781 by William Herschel, and he discovered Uranus while surveying stars in the night sky using a telescope that he had built himself. Uranus is connected to the practice of astrology. So as astrologers, it's really important to understand where Uranus is in our chart so that we can understand maybe how our astrology practice is manifesting for us. If you have Uranus on your midheaven, this could indicate you are an astrologer for your career. If you have Uranus on your IC, your Imam Kolai, which is midnight of the soul, which is on the cusp of home and emotion, perhaps your astrology practice is more firmly rooted in home life. It's more for you. Not saying that's necessarily the case, but that's what's coming to me in this moment. But Herschel noticed that one of the stars in the night sky seemed different. And so after observing it many more times, he noticed that it orbited the sun. And so he calculated that Uranus had an orbit that was about 18 times further from the sun than Earth. So this is when Uranus was discovered in the 1700s, shortly after electricity was invented as well. And so whenever a planet is discovered, we look to see how it's discovered. We look to see what else is happening at that time. Uranus is considered to be the planet of the starry night sky, of astrology, and also of electricity. So Uranus is the seventh planet from the sun, and it's considered to be an ice giant. And this is primarily because its atmosphere contains a high proportion of ices. And so this is like methane and ammonia. And it's the coldest planetary atmosphere in our solar system. And Uranus is also named after the Greek deity of the sky. So here we have, it's ruling over ice and cold weather. It's ruling over the night sky, astrology, electricity. So this is the planet of revolution, vision, freedom. It's connected to the urge for change and the ability to visualize new possibilities. The Fool in the tarot is connected to this Uranus energy, and the Fool is leaping into the unknown and is moved by spirit. The Fool is all about the Holy Spirit moving you. And you can think wind is also associated with Uranus and also with Aquarius. And the Fool feels like the spirit of the wind. If you ever go out in a windstorm, you know that you can't actually control what's going on. You have to yield to the wind. So its position in your chart is going to indicate things that perhaps might feel a little bit out of your control, things that might feel a little erratic, right? This is lightning energy. So it's where we can be struck by some sort of originality, or there's some sort of freedom from conventional thinking in your life, wherever this is positioned. And so for the Aquarius, they will answer to this planet and to the energy of the planet. But we also have Saturn. So Saturn was the original ruling planet for Aquarius. And as we evolve in our astrology practices, many astrologers will work with both Saturn and Uranus as the ruling planets. Some astrologers will say that there are Aquarians who are Saturnian, who are Saturn ruled, and then there are Aquariuses who are Uranian, are ruled by Uranus. From my own meditations, I find that the really deeply soul-centered Aquarius is finding a balance between both of these planets, is both authoritative and committed and driven, Saturn, but is also socially progressive and forward. So let's talk a little bit about Saturn. We had talked about it during Capricorn season, but Saturn is the planet of limitation, of contraction, and it rules over the trials of life experience, of obstacles. It's also connected to time, like father time, like Saturn, right? Our Saturn return is when we're spiritually adulting. So we go from maiden to mother, our first Saturn return, and then our next Saturn return from mother to crone. And so Saturn is saying, wow, I'm ruling over the bones, and I'm ruling over this time that you have that is very limited. So, right? It's limitation. Saturn is connected to Capricorn energy, but it's also connected to Aquarian energy. This is where people sometimes get a little confused about Aquarius. So Saturn for you in your chart, it's going to indicate areas where you might feel restricted by fear. There could be some sort of lack of confidence. There could also be areas which are important to be worked on in this lifetime, and where you might experience obstacles. But in its highest, what it's doing is these obstacles are your greatest teacher to awakening you to your power and your authority in regards to whatever astrological sign it's being shined through. So if you are, for instance, Saturn and Sagittarius, and I'll use me as an example, as an Aquarius sun and an Aquarius rising, I have Saturn and Sagittarius. So on a lower form, this is obstacles in regards to higher learning, our philosophy, we could say. But in the higher form, it's asking me to commit to philosophy and higher learning, which I'm a teacher. Sagittarius is the teacher. Saturn committing to being a teacher. And here we are. But there's something particular in my chart as an Aquarius is because my Saturn and Uranus are conjunct in Sagittarius. So not only am I committing to being a teacher, Saturn and Sagittarius, I'm also channeling innovative, conventional thinking in regards to philosophy. And that is definitely how I relate to my astrology practice, is that I'm traditional and I am deeply committed to studying Saturn and Sag, but I'm also willing to break the rules and to be free from the confines of what traditional astrology is saying. So I'm always looking to upgrade the vocabulary as well. So I have this sort of conjunction in my chart that might seem in a lower form really challenging. So you can visualize the planets in your chart as people. Saturn in a lower form would be a militant. Uranus in a lower form would be an anarchist. So for me in my own chart, I have someone who's militant and someone who's anarchist holding hands with one another since they're conjunct. And since they're in Sagittarius, it's anything to relate to world travel, expansion, philosophy. So in the lower form, this could be the militant person is saying, no, it has to be this way. This is the philosophy. And then the anarchist is saying, fuck that, I'm going to turn this upside down. And so in a lower form, that could be really complicated. And it's in my 11th house, which is about group energies. So I've experienced a lot of this in regards to communities that I've been involved in, where there's been a sense of, okay, I really want to follow the rules here, but I also want to break them at the same time. So that's one way that it's manifested for me. And I'm aware of that these are parts of me that are longing to be expressed. But in the higher form, it has really been a truly remarkable meditation for me. So get to know and see where Saturn is in your chart, where Uranus is in your chart, and how that might be coming into play for you during Aquarius season. So the way that this might manifest for an Aquarius is Aquariuses are said to have a rebellious nature. They're said to be eccentric and spontaneous and original. They're forward-thinking, and they can also feel detached. This is all Uranus. This is totally missing the other side of Aquarius, which Aquarius is also can seem very conservative. They can seem very driven and committed to their job. It can be very logical as well. And this is also kind of getting us into Aquarius as a fixed air sign. We could say air, right, feels like the Uranus energy, and then fixed feels like the Saturn energy. But as a fixed air sign, there is a great deal of authority around thought. Authority being fixed, thought being air. So some ways that this might manifest for the Aquarius is that we can think Aquarius with Saturn is going to adhere firmly to the rules, which it is fixed air. Aquarius is going to really stay fixed on structures and ideology and procedures and beliefs. But Uranus comes in and it says, okay, we're going to adhere to rules that will liberate the collective, that will advance society forward to the new age, to a bright future. Do you feel that shift, right? How Saturn and Uranus are coming into play. If Uranus was just here, it's wanting to free the collective from the past and from structures. But Aquarius is not necessarily breaking up structures. It's utilizing rules and structures to take us into the new age. Fixed air, Saturn and Uranus. Another way this might manifest, there might be a strong focus on identifying obstacles. Saturn, a strong focus, fixed air, on identifying obstacles. Uranus, in order to challenge them, to surpass them, to break free from them, to rebel over them. Right? Saturn rules over time and limitation and the actual physical reality that we're in. So an Aquarius might have a constant thought, fixed air, around realities of time, impermanence, aging, mortality, all of these themes. That's Saturn. A constant thought, fixed air, on the realities of this earth plane. But then we bring Uranus in and is looking forward for ways to create space, right? The joints. Create space to utilize technology, innovation, and science to help free us from these. Uranus is coming in to the Saturnian energy and working together. This is the hopes, right? So Aquarius is both appreciative of efficient systems as well as is facilitating an opportunity for original thought. So there is still, with this fixed air energy, Saturnian and Uranus energy, there is going to be some sort of structure to this liberation. It has to. This is part of it. So be tuning into that for you. It feels like a logical energy. It feels like it can maybe feel stuck. So Aquarius could tend to feel deeply instilled with a sense of purpose. They could be having a very deliberate and consistent approach to life, but they're doing it in their own ways. And they're working always for humanity. There's always some sort of radical vision that's being introduced. So let's look at some of these legendary women in the Queen of the Zodiac Challenge, Queen of Aquarius. So I updated you last week. We have Audre Lorde, Ellen DeGeneres, and Alicia Keys in our Aquarius Grade 8. And then up next, we had Rosa Parks going up against Yoko Ono. And so this created quite a bit of buzz on the Instagram for the show. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, here on the show, we do a project called Queen of the Zodiac. And if you're interested in really reading deeply about all of the work that I put into it and the studies, it's on the Instagram for the show in the storyboard. And so Yoko Ono went up against Rosa Parks, and Rosa Parks won by 55% of the vote. And so this created a lot of buzz because a lot of people were saying that, yes, Rosa Parks is the mother of the revolution movement in the United States, but Yoko Ono, what she stands for and the way that she emotes herself and her personality feels the most Aquarius to many people. But we have to remember again that what we're working on is the Queen of Aquarius. So people were also saying that greatly influenced who they voted for, that even if Yoko was giving the personality feels of Aquarius, Rosa Parks, what she stands for and the role that she played in humanity at large and the effect that she created felt more Queen of Aquarius. So it's fascinating to witness this, the way the collective is responding to these different Aquarius women. So Yoko Ono, a little bit about her, is a Japanese multimedia artist, singer, songwriter, and peace activist. And her work also encompasses performance art, which she performs in both English and Japanese, and is also a filmmaker. Yoko Ono has remained a seminal figure in avant-garde culture since the 1960s, and her feminist art is inextricably related to the development of conceptualism, which feels very Aquarian. So her art combines instructions, invitations, realizations. It always, and I don't want to say always, but I feel like always there's some sort of audience participation. Even if you're reading her books, it's somehow involving you. And there's this use of language that Yoko uses that is a form of art that challenges notions in society, like gender, race, sexuality, identity, that separate us from one another. So Yoko is really giving us that fixed air feel. She stays really focused on her work. And in some ways, we feel her Saturn because there's a sense of commitment to what she's doing. So Yoko's Saturn is in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius is saying you might have obstacles in regards to humanity on the lower form, which she has, we'll get into. But on the higher form, it's saying, can you commit to Aquarian ideals? Can you commit to humanity? Then her Uranus is in Aries. Her innovation is activated through her pioneering nature, through her I am. Saturn in Aquarius, committing to humanity. Uranus is in Aries, receiving innovative downloads in regards to her role as an individual. And we feel that. And this combination with her Aquarius sun energy that she's shining out to the world, it gives an intensity and it gives us an electrical feel of Aquarius. She's often screaming or making like weird and obscure noises to convey her thoughts and emotions. But these thoughts and emotions don't necessarily revolve around her own personal plight. It's always about society and humanity at large. So in her song called Warzone, I'm not sure if she's singing or screaming. It's up for debate. But these are the lyrics. She screams, "Men flashing their guns and balls. Women looking like Barbie dolls. Wake up, wake up. Hold your life. We're out to chill, out to kill. War zone, it's a war zone." Men flashing their guns and balls, right? So Aquarius is breaking up the patriarchy coming after Capricorn. Wake up, wake up. Uranus, as a planet of revolution, is here to wake us up. And Aquarians are here to wake up the collective to some sort of truth that is going to bring us into more of a social progression. So let's tune into a clip of this for research purposes so you can feel this very Uranus and Aries Aquarius energy that Yoko is channeling.
It's a war zone. Men flashing their guns and balls. Women looking like Barbie dolls. Wake up, wake up. Hold your life. They're out to chill, out to kill. War zone. War zone! It's war zone! Guys stealing zillions.
I mean, thank you, Yoko Ono, for creating this and putting this out in the world. It might not be something that we want to listen to every day, but it definitely is speaking to a part of us that's longing to be expressed. And this is part of the Aquarian energy. Ono she's quite a controversial character. She's giving us that outsider feel of Aquarius, especially with her Saturn in Aquarius next to her sun. There's some sort of obstacle around the light that she's shining to the world, but she is committed to it. And she's never let that stop her from her mission of bringing about peace and equality for humanity. And so one way that she's been cast as an outsider, she's been frequently blamed for the breakup of the Beatles, and she's repeatedly criticized for her influence over Lennon. And as Lennon's widow, Ono works to preserve his legacy. She funded strawberry fields in Manhattan Central Park, the Imagined Peace Tower in Iceland, and the John Lennon Museum in Japan. And she has made significant philanthropic contributions to the arts, to the Philippines, and to Japan disaster relief. Before she even met John Lennon, though, she was already doing art, and so that's what people miss from her. Aquarius is connected to forming community, especially in regards to some sort of social progression expression of the new age. And Yoko Ono throughout her life has been known to form groups that center around performance art and peace activism. And so as early as the 1960s, she ran performance spaces that incubated many other legendary artists. She's also connected to the humanitarian fields of Aquarius, too. She is the founder of the biannual award, the Lennon Ono Grant for Peace, which gives $50,000 in prize money to artists living in regions of conflict. And the award is given out to, in conjunction with the lighting of the Imagined Peace Tower. And it was first given to Israeli and Palestinian artists, but since then, she's also awarded it to writers such as Alice Walker, activists such as Pussy Riot, and singers such as Lady Gaga. And yeah, Aquarius is connected to that sort of humanitarian work, and it's also connected to hopes and dreams for the future. And wishes, making a wish is Aquarius, right? The stars. Yoko Ono has created wish trees around the world which invite participants to write wishes down. And in that Aquarius way, she believes in the power of collective intention. Yoko Ono is an Aquarius sun, a Sagittarius moon, and a Libra rising, making her an innovative little girl. in a far-off land, Sagittarius moon, ensuring that the revolution will be peaceful. And that's exactly what Yoko Ono has done through her life and work. What an honor it has been to learn about her life and study her life. And even though she won't be Queen of Aquarius, I think we can all agree that she is very Aquarius. So thank you, Yoko Ono. And then up next, we had Carmen Miranda going up against Etta James. Carmen Miranda is giving us that kooky feel of Aquarius for sure. Carmen Miranda is an Aquarius sun, a Libra moon, and a Leo rising. So we can feel the shift there, right, with the Leo rising. So Carmen Miranda was a Portuguese-born Brazilian samba singer, dancer, and Broadway actress. And she's considered the queen of Technicolor because she's one of the first women to ever be on color TV. And I thought it was cool learning about her life because she really was a controversial figure because she would perform with Afro-Brazilians, which was considered not cool at the time. And she just didn't care what people thought about her. But in the end, y'all were feeling Etta James's vibes for Queen of Aquarius. And so, Carmen Miranda, we bow to you. And then up next, Oprah Winfrey goes up against Delilah Rene. So I wanted to go into Delilah Rene's life because I'm not sure how many people know Delilah Rene, but I want you to know her because she's very Aquarian. Delilah Rene is, if you've ever been grocery shopping at night or on like a long road trip at night, you're most likely have heard her show played. But she's a radio personality, and she's best known as the host of a nationally syndicated nightly U.S. radio show. It's a song request and dedication program. It has an estimated of 8 million listeners each night, and it's called Delilah. And so if you have a friend, right? Aquarius is connected to friend. It's connected to technology. She is called the Queen of the Airwaves, which sounds very Aquarian. If you wanted to like reach out to a friend you hadn't talked to in a while, you could tell Delilah about your friendship, and then she tunes in and she channels the perfect song to go with that situation. And so Aquarius is considered to be removed from society while also dedicating their life to society. So as a radio show host, she started the show herself, recording from her basement in Seattle. And so I really connect to her as an Aquarius myself because she's a radio show host, and that is really Aquarian. And right, Aquarius is sometimes considered to be orbiting like the alien outside of humanity. And so even though she is connecting to all of these people, there might also be a sense of loneliness too. And I know that that can sometimes arise for me, that as a teacher, I have brought groups of people together, and those groups of people are still gathering with one another. But then here I am alone recording in my bedroom, right? So Aquarius is a collective air sign, and it's communicating universal truths to humanity at large. And Delilah is known for doing this. She has a very soothing voice. She has a quick wit about her and has a unique ability to connect others to a sense of hope and excitement for the future. And the fact that the show even comes on at night, I just like, whenever I've listened to her show, I think of how it's nighttime and Aquarius is connected to the starry night sky. But more than just a radio personality, Delilah takes her humanitarianism to a whole other level. She has adopted 14 children and is an activist and public advocate of adoption. And another cool thing is that she, which feels like the eccentric side of Aquarius, is she also owns an ostrich and llama farm outside of Seattle, which gives us that eccentric Aquarian feel. Delilah has also experienced heartache from the loss of her 2 sons in 2017. Her son died recently by suicide, and Delilah was temporarily on a hiatus, but has now returned to her regular broadcast, using her platform to help others find faith and hope in times of darkness. In 2018, Delilah was inducted into the NAB Broadcasting Hall of Fame. She also founded a humanitarian aid nonprofit organization called Point Hope. Again, Aquarius is connected to hope. So this nonprofit is a voice for forgotten children everywhere. and it is focused on saving lives, providing purpose, and restoring hope for foster children in America and for refugees and other vulnerable persons in Ghana and Liberia. So I'd like for you to just hear this little clip of Delilah speaking so you can feel into her Aquarian ways.
Delilah. Tonight we're going to talk about developing an attitude of gratitude.
For over 30 years, Delilah has been inspiring, comforting, and entertaining listeners across the country during her syndicated nighttime call-in show, simply called Delilah.
If you have a story to share, call me and I'm going to find the perfect song to go with your situation, to go with the person or the situation that you are most grateful for.
Delilah is an Aquarius sun, a Libra moon, and a Virgo north node, making her an innovative little girl, Aquarius sun, at a romantic sunset dinner, Libra moon, offering her services to the world. And that's exactly what she's done through her life and her work. And so what an honor it's been, Delilah. Thank you. We love you. Okay, and so now I have a few announcements and updates. For one, this show comes to you free of charge every week, and it's brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Patreon is a website that allows for artists and other creatives to create content in the world while also being compensated for that. And so if you're picking up what I'm putting down, you can make a monthly contribution to this show by signing up at patreon.com/Cosmic Cousins, and know that even if it's just $1, every dollar helps me to continue to create a sustainable offering that's for you all. And this week we have 2 generous Patreon supporters. So a special shout out goes to Brendan McCracken and Jocelyn Hartnett. Thank you so much, Brendan and Jocelyn, for your support, and to all of the Patreon supporters out there for making this show possible. I also am a working teacher, and I have one open spot for a private mentorship through the lens of astrology. If you're looking to deepen your practice with astrology one-on-one, I have a 12-week mentorship that is available. You can send me an email at jeff@brooklynfools.com. If you're also looking to deepen your practices with astrology, but you would like a more affordable rate, I also offer a 12-week course, and that's starting the first week in March. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can always visit astrologycousins.com to learn more about that offering, or you can simply reach out to me with an email, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I also offer both in-person, over the phone, and recorded astrology reading offerings. If you want a recorded reading, this is a deep dive into your chart. It's a 90-minute personalized reading that you will receive, and you'll be able to listen to the recording whenever you want. And it also includes a 20-minute guided meditation. If you'd like something a little bit more condensed, or you just want to check in with me after your 90-minute reading, you can get a 60-minute reading, which we'll do over the phone or in person if you're in LA. And so all of that information is at astrologycousins.com. And that is all of the announcements I have for you this week. And so at this time, we'll transition into this last part of our Aquarius episode, where we get to sit down with Aaron Smith of Vardo Tarot. So today on Cosmic Cousins, I'm feeling really excited and humbled because we have the incredible opportunity to dive deep with the innovative, powerful, healing, and compassionate Aaron Smith. Aaron is a LA-based tarot reader and Reiki practitioner, and is the founder and creator of Vardo Tarot. Did I get that right?
You did.
Cool. Which is, from my perspective, it's a stained glass tarot sanctuary on wheels. And so to be sure, Aaron is serving us some mad Aquarian high vibes. So I'm excited to get into it with you on the show today. Thank you for being on Cosmic Cousins.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. You're a person that I became aware of several years ago, largely because I very much resonated with your posts when you would, throw a spread or you would talk about an astrological transit. I felt like you were speaking my language. So it is a great honor for you to invite me here today and to talk about these things.
Beautiful. And likewise with you. And I know that we've been connected on the social medias for a few years now, and which feels very Aquarian. And I also know that when I moved to Los Angeles, you were one of the first people to reach out to me and said that if I ever needed support or anything, that you were there for me. So thank you for that. So, oh my goddess. Okay, let's talk about your tarot van first, because that's really exciting, because I haven't seen it anywhere. I've heard a lot of people have ideas to create a tarot van, but I've never actually seen it actualized. So on your Instagram, it says, I converted an old delivery van into a caravan to bring tarot to the people. And what I love about this is Aquarius is all about bringing their offering to the people and to the community. So could you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to bring this truly spectacular creation into the world?
Yes, thank you. I mean, I think the reason why there aren't more tarot vans out there is because it was a tremendous undertaking. I mean, it really, there were multiple times while I was building it with my friend Corey Swartzel, who is an amazing artisan and carpenter and a dear friend for many, many years. It was, there were so many times where I was like, oh God, what did I do? Because it was intense, it was pretty much he and I doing all the work ourselves. And it took a year to build. And he and I were both working various jobs at that time. So it wasn't like we were devoting all of our energies to it, but it was a tremendous undertaking. And it was really largely inspired by, honestly, it was a divine vision. I had a literal vision for the caravan in its entirety. And then I went to do some research about what it would take to put it together and how I wanted it to look. And the end result is quite literally as I visioned it. And it was inspired by the fact that I was really called to read tarot on a much more serious level. And prior to reading cards professionally as my sole vocation, I was a set decorator. So for many years, I was immersed in the world of creating space to elicit a certain kind of emotional response. So, and I knew how powerful that was. And really, it's one of those innate gifts that I came into this world with. I was the 4-year-old who would rearrange the furniture every couple of weeks because I felt the need to invoke a different energy in the space. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like the perfect marriage to bring the power of the reading into a space that would put people in a receptive state of being. So
gorgeous. And I love that you're using the word inspire, because I often think of the word inspire with Aquarius, and because spire is coming from the root of breath and connecting us to the air element. And on your website, you said that the caravan came into being in a flash of inspiration. And this flash of inspiration, I thought it really stood out to me because Aquarius is connected to lightning and flashes of inspiration. Uranus is the ruling planet for Aquarius, and it's the planet of innovation. And when working with that planet, people can feel like a sense of electricity buzzing through their body. So I wanted to highlight that first, the flash of inspiration. And your Uranus in your chart is in Libra. And so Libra is the highest vibe is about connecting us to the peaceful energy of the goddess, which I definitely feel from you. When I received a reading from you, there was a peaceful energy to the reading. And also working with people one-on-one, Libra's connected to as well. So it's always cool to look at an Aquarian's chart and see their Uranus and how that's also informing their Aquarian energy. So, so working one-on-one with others, that would be Uranus and Libra, and also connecting them to this peaceful energy. When I share this, does this bring up anything for you? Or I'm curious, did you know your Uranus was in Libra? How accustomed to astrology are you?
So I have studied astrology peripherally with somebody who I think is really amazing. His name is Adam Ellenboss, and he is a Hellenistic astrologer. So I took an online course with him because obviously there's a lot of overlap between tarot and astrological transits. Like, in fact, early on in my studies, I was asking my tarot mentor. What I would notice is that certain cards would come up on a regular basis when I was doing, back-to-back readings for people. And I asked him, is that due to certain astrological transits? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, I definitely relate to this. I definitely I relate Aquarius to sword energy and, which is all about breath, air, communication, the ability to disseminate a message. So I very much relate to these things. And what's interesting about Aquarius, obviously, is that it has this dual rulership, both Uranus and Saturn. Mm-hmm. And they're very different energies, but I feel like, especially in my life, they've really coalesced in a very particular way. Like, I've definitely felt that the heaviness of Saturn has informed my ability to radically communicate what's going on internally and externally. Mm-hmm. And I definitely relate to this piece that you talked about, working one-on-one with people. Mm-hmm. I feel always that I have been called. I was a child who tuned into people's emotional states in a very powerful way. I would often have people confess things to me that they said they'd never told anyone else. And so I've always had this thing where I wanted to, I was drawn to helping people work stuff out, brainstorming with them how they might traverse certain difficulties.
I'm loving the word brainstorming. I've never actually made that connection before, but Aquarius connection to lightning and storms. So the idea of the brainstorm feels really cool. So I like that you brought up Saturn too, because often people will say, oh, Uranus is Aquarius' ruling planet, but soul-centered Aquarius is working with both of these planets and bringing them into alignment. So I'm looking at your chart now, and your Saturn is in Taurus. Saturn can be where we have obstacles, but it can also be where we're really learning to step up to the plate of our own authority. So what has Saturn in Taurus been like for you?
Well, interestingly enough, it's in my 5th house. And from what I understand about 5th house is that it's sickness, it's sorrow, it's and service, right? So that's a very powerful combination of things. And I would definitely say that those blocks that I've had to work through in my own life, both around physical and mental health, has come to be the juice by which I relate to others. Like, all of my compassion is born out of my own personal struggle. Okay. And I feel like it gives me a really intense inroad to talk to other people who are struggling, right? They know, they see me as one of their own because I am.
And is this what led you to tarot? Did tarot create a safe container for you to facilitate conversations with other people and healing opportunities? Or what was it that initially got you interested in working with the cards?
Well, I was introduced to tarot when I was fairly young. I was 13 or 14, and it was an older friend of mine, and that she had a deck, and she and it was, I've had this experience at various times in my life when I've been introduced to certain things, and it's that magic, awe-inspired, like it's sparkly, it's hyper effervescent. I know that I'm supposed to be paying attention, and I definitely had that feeling when she introduced me to tarot. I've had it with all kinds of things. Like, I mean, look, I was a kid who I'm always reticent to use the word psychic, but I would have prescient dreams. I would dream of a place that I would then later go visit, and the whole dream would come flooding back into my consciousness, and I would know everything about the place. And this happened a lot. And so I felt like there was this hidden world beneath the surface of things, and anything that sort of connected me up to investigating that further was I was all about that. So, you know, I was also, you know, interested in ghosts and black holes, and you know, it's like, again, anything that gave me that sense of like the bigger, deeper reality of things was really interesting to me. And tarot was definitely a part of that. Instantaneously, I gravitated towards it.
Are there any tarot cards that come to mind that really speak to the Aquarian energy?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously the star is a big one. I mean, it is absolutely the representative card of Aquarius. But, you know, I think the reason why it's so powerful is that she is stripped away of all artifice. She becomes this channel for spirit, right? And she's able to bring that in through her experience and create a materialization of it in the world at large. So, and I really feel like that's what I do when I read tarot. I mean, when you talked about the nervous system and feeling the meditation and feeling the energy of bringing sort of spirit into matter, that's what it feels like. You know, I say a prayer before I do every reading, and that prayer is to be a channel to all of my guides, all of my spirits, all of my ancestors, and to be a channel to tell people whatever it is that they most need to know, whatever will be most helpful for them to hear. And so, and I feel it very palpably. It feels electric, as you said. You know, it's tingly, it's effervescent. I feel it sort of in my head, and then it spreads down through my shoulders and down my spine. It's palpable.
It kind of sounds like almost like the chills to me. Is this like a similar sensation?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, although I would say it's more sustained. So where the chills will kind of like move through your body and then move out, it's it's sort of like experiencing a current that goes through your body, and it's sustained over the length of my reading.
So I want to ask you a like kind of different question, but it's still related. What is your favorite thing about looking up into the starry night sky?
I mean, I love the vastness of it. Like, it's so, and then these beautiful points of light contrasted against the dark backdrop. I mean, there's something so primal about, here I am in this fixed place in the universe, and as I look up and out, this is, you know, this helps me to sort of geographically locate myself in the universe, and yet there's so much out there, you know? Again, it's that feeling of standing in the presence of the great expanse, you know? It's like humbling and exciting and a little scary even. So
yeah. So all that you're sharing, this is connecting us to the energy of Aquarius. Aquarius is connected to the starry night sky, and we can really look and understand its relationship to nighttime and darkness as we're like right fixed in the middle of winter, and it's our fixed air sign. I love that you said, I'm fixed here geographically and like looking up at a place. There is something with that like fixed point. So Aquarius is the night sky. Leo, which is the polar sign to Aquarius, rules over the daytime, and it's the sun. It's the one big star in our solar system, whereas Aquarius is connecting us to galaxies far away. So these are two polar energies, and when I work with astrology, it's soul-centered astrology, and a big component of that is how do we bring ourselves to the center of the wheel? Because all of the archetypes in astrology live within us. Aquarius, as your sunshine, the sun sign is the light that you're shining out to the world. But all of the archetypes live within you. So Aquarius is said can be cold and detached, maybe emotionally removed. Might be really focused on big group energies, humanity at large. And so evolving through Leo, and I'm going to do the same motion that you did, this figure 8 that you were doing up the body, evolves through Leo, and Leo is the heart. Aquarius is the nervous system, and then Leo is the heart of the lion. So for Aquarius to come into their heart, it thaws them out. They're not as cold anymore, and they're a little bit more warm and compassionate and brave. They're able to be the unique person that they are, the Aquarian person, and are confident in it, and then inspire others to be. So how in your life have you evolved through Leo, and do you have any relationships with Leo? What's your connection to this sign?
So, it's so funny. Yes, absolutely. And I will say I absolutely agree with you that there is something profound that happens when you're able to marry this objectivity with true connection. And in fact, one without the other causes some significant problems in the life of a person, right? So if you're too detached, then you can't make sense of any of the data that you're collecting, right? If it's all intellectual, then there's no way to apply it with any kind of efficacy. It's all too removed. It's all too objective. But if you're so immersed in your own emotional drama that you can't possibly gain any perspective of how it fits in with you in relation to the rest of the world, then it's easy to get lost in that sort of myopic world of your own making. And so I definitely feel like you are absolutely correct. It's the marriage of these sort of polar opposite energies that makes I feel like I'm better in the world as the result of working closely with those two energies, right? Like I can definitely say in my 20s, I was in a lot of drama, right? I was in a lot of pain and not being able to make sense of my own mission or how I was supposed to work through that or how I was supposed to apply it in relation to other people. And then, with time and with practice, I also have a meditation practice that has been instrumental in helping me sit with those big feelings and investigate them without judgment and allowing them to truly be processed and then gaining real insight from that. Mine is a Vipassana practice, so it's insight meditation. And it's funny because I've had relationships, particularly in my childhood, there were people in my youth that I was attracted to over and over again who were Leos. And, one thing I will say, my experience with the Leos in my life is that they love to draw attention to themselves, which I was cool with, right? I was able to sort of let them take center stage, but I was definitely sort of standing back and analyzing their behavior. And, the Leos in my life have taught me how to be bold and to be, like triumphant in their, expressions in the world. Like I gotta say, a lot of Leo friends are actors, they like to be in the limelight. And that kind of like unfettered self-expression is awesome, and definitely something that I've, cultivated in my own work a little bit. I'm less the person who wants to be in front of everybody. I'm definitely not the person who wants to be in front of the camera. So, it's like to borrow some of that energy has been really helpful. But I really love, I have to say, I love being an Aquarian. I love this deep drive to try to unify perspectives and unify groups of people and make the outsider feel included. Like, that's so my mission, always has been.
Mm-hmm. How do you think that your tarot practice is an expression of this?
Well, again, it's like the work that I've done personally in my own life in relation to my own issues gives me a sense of like, the struggle of the human condition, right? It's like we all struggle, right? It may look very different from person to person, but that's one thing that I have noticed is that, reading tarot cards gives you a very intimate glimpse into what's going on with people. And these are people that I see from a very wide cross-section of life, right? Like, this isn't just one type of person. Like, it's all different age ranges, all different cultural backgrounds. And it's fascinating to see, it is, and humbling to see that we all struggle, right? So being able to work through my own personal difficulties gives me, again, this compassionate anchoring point to people and what they're going through. But definitely, I think like this, nothing like meditation gives you, like, it definitely helps you to detach, to be able to see the bigger picture, to be able to see the overview, to not get lost in the minutia of whatever that emotional exchange is, so that I can be a channel for the highest vision, right? Like, I think that's what's so powerful about spiritual guidance of a lot of different sorts, right? There are all these different modalities that are helpful to people because it's very hard to be objective about your own situation. So when somebody graces me with the invitation to look into their life on a soul level and help make sense of some of those energies and what's coming out of them, I get to be this objective witness. I get to put together this narrative that might help them to revision the way that they're relating to their circumstances in the present moment, and then give them some choices of how they're going to react to things that are coming forward,
I love what you're saying, because you're really articulating Aquarius as our collective air sign. So Gemini is the personal air sign, Libra is interpersonal air, and then Aquarius is the collective, our big picture air. And speaking of air, it sounds like we might have like a feathered friend in the background.
Yes, we do. I have two cockatiels, and they're very chatty, and they love to be a part of the collective.
Yeah. So I have a beautiful story I'd like to share with you that happened yesterday morning. So, we've been getting a lot of rain here in LA, and I made some turmeric tonic yesterday morning, and usually I go in the backyard, and something was calling me to the front porch, and so I went out there and I was just sipping it, and then I saw like 10 green parrots fly into the bird of paradise trees in my front yard. And then I kept watching, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And then one of them let out this like really loud squawk, and about 10 more came. And then a few minutes passed and another 10 came, and eventually they all gathered up on the phone lines, and it was about 35 of them is what I counted. And I was observing them, and I couldn't help but think it was a message about Aquarius, because it is the air element, and there was something about the group energy of all of them coming together, but they are very unconventional and not necessarily like a bird that you would see every day. And when we talk about Aquarius being connected to the starry night sky and we see a shooting star, there's a sense of a gasp or like awe that this energy of Aquarius can inspire. And so seeing these parrots, it wasn't the same as if I saw like 30 blue jays, because they had this energy about them that, well, for one, I had never seen them in person before like that, or that many of them in the just out in the wild. Maybe I have like at a zoo or something, but something was coming through about parrot that felt Aquarian to me. So I saw on your Instagram that you were posting a picture of what looked like a parrot to me. You're saying it's a cockatoo?
Cockatiel, which is a type of parrot.
Yeah.
And parrots are very special. I mean, talk about Aquarian, they're flock animals, right? They are all about the group, right? They definitely, that's the reason why you're seeing 35 of them in the tree, right? Because they're very social. They're a little bit like monkeys, actually, in their temperament. They're very playful and very inquisitive, and they definitely are chatting and conveying information to one another. And I have always had a thing with birds, so it's interesting that you bring this up. In fact, the reason that I came to Los Angeles is I was living in Seattle at the time. This was in the early 90s, and I was really floundering. It was in my 20s, and I didn't quite know what to do with myself. And I made a movie with a little video camera and some friends, and it was called The Language of the Birds. And the symbolism, the main crux is this very lost soul has a symbolic encounter that she takes to be assigned to needing to change her life. And the symbol is this: a bird flies in her window, crashes into the window, and dies. And it becomes like an omen to change her life's conditions. So the making of this film was so magic, was so electric, that I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And in order to do that, I knew I would have to move to a place where they make movies. So I put everything in my car. I was 25 years old. I put everything in my car. I didn't know a solitary soul in Los Angeles. And I drove down here and started to work in film. So about a year after I moved to Los Angeles, I was living in Silver Lake in a studio apartment on the second floor. And one morning I was awakened to the sound of knocking at my window. And I was like, what could that be? I go to the window and I open up the window, and a little bird is sitting on the windowsill, and he comes inside of my house and he starts living with me. And this bird was a cockatiel. It was very clearly someone's pet who had escaped, but he found his way to me. And I took this as the full circle sign that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, because I interpreted the imagery of my own art, and it told me to come here, and here was the confirmation that I needed from spirit. And it came through this bird energy.
Wow. Gorgeous. Also, this feels Aquarian to me as well, because it's our cosmic air sign, and there's when working with Aquarian energy, a lot of Aquariuses that I know will communicate with spirit through this realm that we live in, whether it's tarot or numerology, are certain synchronicities that are happening in their life and kind of following the trail of confirmation. And which brings me to, you work with the Rider-Waite Tarot, which was made by Pamela Coleman Smith, who is an Aquarius. And so she is in our Queen of Aquarius bracket, the 16 women that I selected that I thought represented Aquarius. And I'm curious, what is your relationship to the Rider-Waite? Do you use any other cards? Did you know Pamela Coleman Smith was an Aquarius?
I did know that she was an Aquarius, and there's a reason why I used her deck. I mean, I think she was incredibly tapped in. And by the way, too, just a shout out to the arts. You know, before I ever learned tarot, before I ever, you know, found ways to make sense of my own sort of instinctual, like, way of working in the world, art. I have always found that spirit speaks to me through my artwork. I was a kid who was always drawing. I was always assembling these symbolic images, and that's totally what the tarot is, right? It's this, what I say is it's a pictorial language. Each card represents a distinct aspect of human consciousness. And she just does such a phenomenal job translating those different emotional states. Like, and really what makes her so extraordinary, you know, obviously she was hired as an illustrator to do that deck, but she had a deep understanding of what those images meant, and what I mean, she was a member of the Order of the Golden Dawn also. And so she was no stranger to those archetypes. And she just does for the major arcana, she borrowed a lot of the imagery from the Marseille deck. But what's extraordinary is that her minor arcana cards, really are detailed illustrations that represent the meanings of the cards, and really nobody had done that before her work. Right. So she was revolutionary in that, and one of the reasons why I use that deck is that it's very familiar to people, so I think it's easier for people to take on, like to allow that message to come through. But also I just think like she is a master at conveying these scenarios through her storytelling ability. I mean, she's really amazing. And, you know, you mentioned to me like who I would think was, you know, most representative in your, you know, Aquarian. And I was thinking either Oprah or Carole King, but I have to say I sort of changed my mind. Mm-hmm. It's either Oprah or Pamela Coleman Smith.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so for one, Pamela Coleman Smith is a Leo moon. Mm-hmm. So whenever someone's an Aquarius sun, Leo moon are like their moon signs in the polar sign of their sun sign, for one, on a practical level, it means they're a full moon baby. So they're like, have this supercharged invitation. But they often will offer us a window into understanding what the soul-centered energy will feel like, because they have both of it going on. And so Leo is connected to colors and creative expression, and having the Aquarian understanding of archetypes, because Aquarius is Starry Night Sky. If we want to really talk about it, Aquarius rules over astrology and the archetypes in the sky. Mm-hmm. Aquarius is connected to astrological practices. So by studying these women, I then synthesize the information into 5 soul-centered traits. And so one of them is, by upgrading archetypes, advances humanity forward to a more collective understanding. And I would say Oprah has also done that with her work as well. So let's talk a little bit about Oprah. Why do you think that she reflects Aquarius?
Well, for one, I just think that being a powerful communicator is definitely an Aquarian trait, right? Like, and there are a lot of different ways that these messages get conveyed, but obviously she's a journalist. She's a public speaker. She has used the power of her voice to really reach a very broad cross section of people. And largely what she's done is brought spiritual awareness to the general populace. I mean, she was making popular, you know, Eckhart Tolle. I mean, like, but before she came on the scene, these were people who were very specialized in their field. You know what I mean? Like, I knew a lot of meditators who were interested in Eckhart Tolle, but when she had him on as her, you know, in her book club, that he blew up, right? He became a part of like the popular consciousness. So, and I think also, I will say this too, you know, Oprah's personal story is you know, she's very forthright about her, you know, growing up in a horribly abusive environment, and essentially the alchemical transmutation of pain into the salvation of others. Like, she is such a representative of that. And you know, she is think about this. Before Oprah, people did not talk about child abuse on a public level. And so it was this dark, shadowy secret that people had to carry with them for the rest of their lives and be maligned by it. She made it acceptable to say, this happened to me, but it is not who I am, and I can transcend. Mm-hmm. That is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of chills, I got chills a few times while you were talking about Oprah. And Eckhart Tolle is also an Aquarius.
Oh, see?
King and Queen of Aquarius right there, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of, you know, the way that she's given voice to past trauma in her life, you can always look at someone's chart and see what was the first planet that rose at the time of your birth. So for her, she's a Sagittarius rising, which I think is like you. She's a Sag rising, and Capricorn is in Chiron in her chart, or Chiron's in Capricorn. So that's wounds around father, or patriarchy, or authority. And that was the first planet to rise at the time of her birth. So her rising planet she's a Chiron rising, which means that she is rising into her healing potential as well, and particularly as related to Capricorn themes, which I definitely feel with her work. So Oprah, I know that you had also mentioned Carole King, which I thought would be cool to talk about as well.
Look, the thing about Carole King is that she also is the voice of the people, right? Like, I think she's the most successful female songwriter of the 21st century. She had the most hits of anybody. She just had a way of putting into music, into words, these deep emotional states that kind of touched everyone, right? Like, and, you know, she maybe doesn't come from the same overt traumas that Oprah does, but she's definitely like kind of, you know, an outsider in her own way, and bringing everyone into the fold of her collective message through pop music, you know? Yeah. So, and also very much a champion of women's themes. You know, she was very in tune with the divine feminine, and, you know, and spoke to that in a lot of her music. So, I mean, I think also a perfect representative of that sweet Aquarius energy.
Mm-hmm. And she's a Libra rising, so we could feel a little bit of that coming through too. So you're a Sagittarius rising. And an Aries moon, I believe.
I am an Aries moon. In fact, my Mars is in Aries and my moon is in Aries. So there's a lot going on.
Nice. Well, it's interesting when I put these 16 women together, there's a lot of fire moons and risings and air moon and risings. Ellen DeGeneres has the same combo as you, so that's like a cool fact for you. She's also an Aries moon, Sagittarius rising. Something that I do on the show and as a teaching method is when I was studying Judy Garland's life, I realized that her birth chart was an exact replica of the characters that she played, and I find that often with actors. So she is a Gemini sun, which is a curious little girl. So we're talking about Dorothy right now. Sagittarius moon. Sagittarius is connected to world travel, so in a far-off land. So curious little girl in a far-off land, trying to find her way back home, Cancer rising. So I've created a little system for understanding what each everyone else's inner Dorothy is. So your inner Dorothy, I'm going to share with you and see if it brings up anything for you. But you're an innovative little girl, Aquarius sun, Aries moon, riding a horse at sunrise, Sagittarius rising, expanding the horizons of our world. So you can take a moment and maybe visualize that and see if it brings up anything for you.
Well, I would definitely say that this image that you give, which is actually a very interesting image and not one that I would have immediately associated with myself, but this idea of being a child riding a horse at sunset is kind of magnificent, because I feel like in a lot of ways over the course of my life, I have strongly related to the archetypal story of Joan of Arc. So this idea of being sort of, and I have also really struggled with a sense of loneliness, right? I think that that's something like being the lone figure that has to champion a large army, right? This idea that somehow it is my job to sort of be the warrior who goes out in front of the pack or in front of the army. That is definitely a sensation that I've thought of for myself. And I have often felt like, that I was exploring new territory, right? That I was in, and that's very much that Aquarius innovator, right? Like, forging ahead, forging new territory, being in the forefront and in some ways feeling like you're the protector of those that are coming up behind you. That's definitely, I think, been a kind of theme that I have felt that's prevalent throughout different times of life.
Mm-hmm. And I loved when you were talking about Oprah, you were talking about Aquarius really being connected to words and communication as well. And so I'm kind of sensing that some of this might even be metaphorical in regards to the way that you're communicating with others or in the world. And the phrase for Aquarius is, I know, which Oprah really embodies that phrase for sure. And I use, astrologically, I'll look at fixed as kings, and then air as swords. So I use the King of Swords as another representation of Aquarius. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you could offer us about the King of Swords?
So, first of all, it's funny that you would say that, because oftentimes in readings that I do for myself, and I don't do them very often because, as I said, I think it's difficult to be objective about your own stuff. But Queen of Swords comes up for me all the time. So I definitely see her as a representative of myself and Aquarians. And here's the thing that I love about sword energy. First of all, I very, very much, I have always been a speaker, right? I feel like a lot of my magic comes through words. When I'm giving readings, I become a channel. It's like the words are being pulled through me, and I turn off my internal editor and I allow whatever comes forward to come forward, because it has been shown to me time and again that that's what the person needs to hear. So I definitely feel like a lot of my power comes through communication. And I've always felt this way, just to be in full disclosure. So I'm almost 20 years sober. And so a lot of my personal struggle came through addiction in my early years. And that was something that I had to work out through different spiritual practices. And one of the ways that I have found to to arrest my addiction is through 12-step programs. And speaking is a big part of that. And so early on in my sobriety, I would get in front of these rooms full of people, and I would be telling my story with the sole intention to be of service to others. And I felt that kind of electricity, the same kind of electricity that I feel when I'm working one-on-one with people. So again, this idea of taking your own struggle, taking your own pain, and transmuting it into something that gives a person hope that they themselves can come through that difficulty, that was very Aquarian. So here's the tricky part with sword energy, to bring it back. A sword is actually a neutral tool. It can be used to get to the heart of a matter, to cut away the extemporaneous and discern the truth, or it can be used on yourself or others like a weapon in the form of being hyper-judgmental, hypercritical. So the trick to being the king of swords, because I think of kings as mastery, right? So the trick to wielding your sword wisely is you first have to know what your narratives are. You have to know what thoughts are being produced in your mind and how that's affecting your behavior. And then you have to detach from them enough to be able to practice discernment. Because what I've come to realize is not every thought that goes through my head is helpful or true. And so in order to behave well in the world, I have to really examine my own internal narrative and choose not to listen to the hyper-judgmental, hypercritical, obsessive narrative and direct my thoughts towards a very singular focus, whether that's my breath in meditation, whether that's to be helpful to another person, or whether that's to direct my focus towards creating some inspired work. I have learned to work with my own mind and direct it towards a greater good. But that was not always the case. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow, you're really giving us high vibe Aquarius, the power of collective intention and the focus and discernment. So thank you so much for that, and for all that you've shared with us. To close out our time, there's a little game I like to play that's called Cosmic Slip and Slide. And so it's a 60-second game where I ask you as many questions as you can answer about your personal relationship to Aquarius.
Okay.
Are you up for the Cosmic Slip and Slide challenge?
I'm not.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to pull up a little timer so we can do 60 seconds here. And we'll start now. What astrological sign is Aquarius most attracted to?
I have to say Libra because that's what my boyfriend is.
What crystal do you associate with Aquarius?
Wait, what?
What crystal do you associate with Aquarius?
Quartz crystal.
What tarot card besides the Star and King of Swords feels the most Aquarius?
The Ace of Swords.
What is Aquarius like in the morning?
Bright, alert.
Describe Aquarius in 2 words.
Divine innovation.
What astrological sign is Aquarius most likely to ask advice from?
Wow, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say Libra, actually, oddly.
Mm-hmm. What 2 colors do you associate with Aquarius?
Blue and yellow.
And we're right at time.
Okay.
So I'd like to go over a few of these with you. What crystal do you most associate with Aquarius? You said quartz. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear why that came to mind.
Again, I think just because, well, it's total visceral response, but also I think just because it's very clear, right? You can see through it, and you can, it's easy to see through. I feel like Aquarians are very transparent.
Mm-hmm. what tarot card feels the most Aquarius? You said Ace of Swords?
Ace of Swords, yeah. I mean, and I think mostly because I think of aces as being the distilled essence of something. So it really is this sort of divine, like, it's not muddied, right? It's like the purest form of communication that can come through you. So that's what I associate with the Ace of Swords.
Mm-hmm. And then I like this one because you added the word in oddly, but you said, what astrological sign is Aquarius most likely to ask advice from? And just to reflect back, you really thought about it, which I appreciated. And then you said Libra, oddly.
So I guess oddly, because I don't, I mean, here's what I think of Libra. You know, the one who is in balance, right? I deeply revere this idea of balance, of not being at either extreme of the spectrum. And it's very Taoist, this idea of weighing things and applying the opposite whenever you're out of alignment, you know? And so that's really what I think of Libra. But then I was trying to think of who do I know who's a Libra that I go to for advice?
Right.
I mean, again, aside, I guess obviously I run things by my partner, but I can't think of, I don't really know if any of my traditional mentors have been Libras. Maybe they are, and I just don't know it.
Yeah, but I like that it came through, and it's bringing us back to, because for Libra, we could maybe use the Queen of Swords. And you were talking about the Queen of Swords. It's the figure of justice. When I think of the Queen of Libra, our final two was Bell Hooks, who's an incredible activist and speaker and feminist, and Amma, who is the hugging saint. So that was our final two Libra queens, and I could see the Aquarius women going to those two figures for advice for sure.
Well, I definitely go to Alma. I've been to see her many times, so.
Right. Beautiful. And then I like this one. What is Aquarius like in the morning? You said alert, and did you use any other words? I'm trying to
bright and alert, I think is what I said. And I have to say, I am a morning person. Like, I get up and my mind is firing, and I'm able to make kind of interesting associations, and I'm analyzing my dreams, and I'm a morning person.
Yeah. Aries is connected to the sunrise, so as your Aries moon with Aquarius, I could really see that being a great time of day for you. But the word bright and alert are actually attributes that people will say you can see in the Aquarian face. Aquarius is often said to have bright eyes or starry eyes. And I had heard that before, and I didn't really truly take it to heart. But when I was starting to research these Aquarian women, it's interesting because then I'll put them in a little picture of all 16 of their faces together. And I'll just show it to you here on the screen. But these are all the Aquariuses together, and they're all beaming, smiling really big. It was hard to find images of Aquariuses not smiling. I mean, Carol Channing, try to find a picture of her not smiling. Carmen Miranda, even Carole King has this bright smile. So, and you do too. I know that those listening right now won't be able to see you, but I'll post a picture of you on the Instagram. But you definitely have a bright smile and a bright presence to you, which we could see with the Leo Aquarius polarity. This is kind of stuff that they have in common with each other. Did you ever consider yourself someone that has a bright smile?
No, I wouldn't necessarily think of that, but that's a lovely thing to hear, I guess, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say the same about you. You have a very warm and inviting smile. You definitely are a person that somebody would immediately feel a kinship with.
Yeah. Cosmic cousins, as it's called. So, my cheeks hurt now. I've been smiling so much, and this has been so wonderful to connect with you. Happy solar return. I saw that your birthday was at the beginning of Aquarius season. Any thoughts on being an early Aquarius?
I feel like, because I'm right on the cusp. I am right on the cusp of Capricorn. And I definitely feel like an Aquarian, but I have a little bit of that, Capricornian drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in some ways, I'm very practical. So I definitely think that it's applicable.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking about Aquarius working with Saturn and Uranus, Aquarius I find also to be very driven, and I actually have a mug that is an Aquarius mug and has 2 words on it, and one of them was driven, which is why I got the mug, because I've never actually seen anyone attribute Aquarius to being driven, but I really feel that as well.
Right.
And then the other adjective was feisty, which I also thought was kind of fun. So anyway,
birthday to you. It's coming up.
Oh yeah, next week will be mine.
Our Valentine to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, so happy new moon, happy solar return, and I hope to connect with you soon here in LA. Yeah.
I would love that. And thank you so much again for asking me to be on your show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for always, cousins, for carving out this space in your life. If you'd like, you could leave a 5-star review, some comments, and some love. And again, check out astrologycousins.com for any mentorship offerings or if you're wanting to book a reading. And yeah, make sure you vote in the Queen of Aquarius. And I'll see you all next week. Take sweet care, cousins. And remember, deep breaths.